Hello students, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jagdeep. In this video series we are learning about market structures. In our previous video we talked about monopoly. This video shall focus on monopolistic competition. So without wasting any time further, let's get started. So monopolistic competition is a market situation where you would see large number of sellers selling close but differentiated products. A very good example of this would be FMCG commodities. FMCG commodities are basically called fast moving consumer goods. For example, soaps, toothpastes, biscuits, so on and so forth. Now when we talk about monopolistically competitive markets, it has a combination of both monopoly and competition. Now since when we are talking in terms of monopoly, the firm is able to enjoy, let me write that, a monopoly position. Why? Because of the brand name that the firm has. However, there are several other firms selling more or less the same commodity, though a little differentiated, but selling more or less the same commodity. So you also have the competition element here. Hence the term monopolistic competition. Let's take a look at the features of this market structure. The first feature is large number of sellers. So just like perfectly competitive market, a monopolistically competitive market would also have large number of sellers. The only difference being that sellers here would be selling closely related but differentiated products. For example, let us say two brands of toothpaste, so Colgate and Pepsodent. Since these sellers are selling different commodities and probably may also have different consumers for their goods, each firm is independent with limited market share since the market is shared by all the players in the market. The next feature is product differentiation. So product differentiation is basically creating differences in the products with regards to the size, the shape, color, fragrance, appearances, and in many terms with regards to the brand. These sellers in a monopolistically competitive market would sell close but not perfect substitutes. So if I am supposed to give you an example for a perfectly substitute commodity, let us say two brands of water as against Coke and Pepsi. So two brands of water are perfect substitutes. Since the products are differentiated on the basis of their characteristics, buyers in these markets would not hesitate to pay a different price for a commodity coming from a different brand or from a different seller. Next is the selling cost. Since there are many sellers in this market, it is mandatory that the sellers advertise their products. So selling costs is basically related to advertising expenses. And why do you think advertising is necessary? Because the products are differentiated. The advertisement expenses in these markets are a major proportion to the total costs incurred by these firms. Just like perfectly competitive market, these markets also have freedom of entry and exit. That means new firms are free to enter, existing firms are free to exit. And given this scenario, once again, just like perfectly competitive markets, firms would have abnormal profits in the short run and normal profits in the long run. The only difference here is entry for new firms is not as easy as perfectly competitive markets because there are investment expenditures and a lot of research that needs to be taken before entering a given market. Students, if you found this video helpful so far, I would invite you to show your support by using the super thanks button below. Your contributions are incredibly important. They empower me to keep delivering high quality free content that would benefit all the students like you. Remember, every little bit counts. Thank you for your support so far. The next feature is there is lack of perfect knowledge. So unlike perfectly competitive markets, buyers and sellers here do not have perfect knowledge with regards to the market trends, and hence also it is possible for firms to charge different prices for their offerings, and consumers may end up paying different prices for different brands. The pricing decisions here are completely not dependent upon the firm or the market as such. So a firm has partial control over the price. However, how much of this control is in the hands of the firms would depend upon how loyal the consumers are towards a given seller. So the greater the brand loyalty, the greater would this control be. The firms in monopolistically competitive markets would also engage in non-price competition. That is, their competition would be based on other elements such as CRM activities, which are called customer relationship management. For example, you could give them free gifts, you could ease out the credit terms for them, so on and so forth. Finally, the AR curve. So the average revenue curve in this market is a negatively sloped curve. What does this indicate? It indicates that when price falls, they'll be able to sell more, quantity would go up, and when price goes up, quantity sold would be less. That would give me a downward sloping average revenue curve. Students, if you are struggling with this topic, you could consider joining one of my online tutoring sessions where we could explore these topics in depth. I'm currently helping students from multiple countries like UAE and Singapore. I invite you to contact me directly at the number displayed on their screen. Don't miss out on an opportunity to get a 30 minutes complimentary session with me. Also, if you find learning through long videos daunting, you could follow me over my Instagram channel where you would see the same segments in a shorter duration. Alright students, in our next video, we'll talk about oligopoly. Until then, bye now. Take care.